Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel where tech meets creativity. And in today's automation video, we'll be looking at a practical use case of how we could leverage the REFramework and the dispatcher performer model to design robust automation solutions. So if you have found yourself in a situation where your automation files are breaking and bots don't know how to do with that, this video is for you. So I'll go ahead and jump in. So in this particular video, we'll be looking at the dispatcher bot. So the use case that we have at hand will be interacting with the ACME system. We have seen this in some of our past videos. So the task we have will be logging into the system. If you don't have an account, you should create one. After logging into the system, we'll be navigating to the vendors list. And once we get to the vendors list, we'll be scraping the data that will be there. And then after scraping the data, we'll be uploading it to the queue. Because remember, we say that the dispatcher, you see here, the dispatcher's job is to prepare the data to be consumed by the performer. So what we'll be doing in the use case, logging into ACME, locating the vendor list, scraping the data in the vendor list, and then uploading it to the queue for our data to be prepared. Once the data is set, then the performer bot will be triggered. So that's it on a high level. So once the dispatcher bot is done, it will trigger the performer bot, and then the performer bot will be doing the same. We'll be logging into ACME, navigating to some invoice list, and then scraping the data, writing it to an Excel file. So it will be a series video. We first look at the dispatcher, then once we're done with the dispatcher, then we'll look into the performer bot as well. So I'll open my browser. So the ACME system. So I'm already logged in, but so the task we have, we're logging into ACME. So once we are in ACME, we're coming at vendors, and then after vendors, we click on search for vendor. Search for vendor. Once we click on search for vendor, we click on display all vendors. Display all vendors. So this is the list that will be scraping and uploading to Orchestrator. So Orchestrator is new because we haven't looked into the Orchestrator. It will be something new that we'll be looking into it, like an overview of how it works and how we can integrate it with UiPath Studio. So once we're done with this, we upload. So you have seen the different series steps that I'm going through here. So I'm clicking vendors, search for vendor. But I want you to notice something. You see here in the URL tab, this here. Every time I make a click, for example, if I click on display all vendors, you see that I get a list, and also my URL changes from vendors, then it appends a slash, then search by name. So this is I'll be navigating here via URL. I won't be using the UI elements. We'll see how that plays out in Studio. So once we're done, so that's for the dispatcher. So once we're done with that, and the data is ready, it's been uploaded. So the performer bot will be coming into the invoice, search, and then it will be inputting here the task ID, and then click on search, then whatever data is displayed there, it will be written to an Excel file. Yeah, so if I hope that's clear, but if I recap for a bit, so this is what we'll be doing. We're logging into the ACME, then accessing this. Then we're accessing this page. Then we're accessing this page. I've opened it multiple times. Then we're accessing this page. So once we access the page, scrape the data to Excel, upload. So I'll go ahead and jump in. Let me open my UiPath Studio. So in the previous video, we did look at states in UiPath. So we see we have 4 stages in UiPath: initialization, end, get, process. So this is how it looks on a high level. All these different stages, they are state machines, as we saw that in the previous video. If you don't know about stats, you can check out that in this video up there. So this is how it looks in the main .xaml. If I come into the project panel, you see that this is the folder structure. I'm having data where you can input your input data, output data, temporary files. So also the config file. This is very important. So the config file, this is how it looks like. It's an Excel file. It has 3 worksheets, settings. This is how the settings look like. So we have name, value, then the description. So like for the name, we have orchestrator name. These are default values that come. You can always change the orchestrator value to the value of the orchestrator that you'll be working with. We'll be seeing that in a bit, later on in the video. And you also have the orchestrator folder. You can always change to match the orchestrator folder that you'll be working with. We also have the log business name. So this is business process name. So this is the name of the use case that you'll be working with. So in my case, I could change it to, if you go back to my studio, you see that I have vendor data collector as my project. So I'll change the value of my business process name to vendor data collector. That's the name. So we have the constant worksheet as well. We have constant, so the maximum retry number. So in case of retries, this is where you set the value from. Consecutive system exceptions. In case, this is where you set also the path for the exceptions. This is where you set it from. So for the settings, you can always add in values, as you'll see in this video. Assets, if you're working with assets, this is the assets worksheet where you can always put the assets. So that's a bit for the config file. We see it in action, how we can work with it. So we have the documentation. This is the documentation. It's actually the documentation, the framework that you'll be working with. So this is how it looks like. So so if you have any queries and there's something that you don't understand here and there, you can always refer to this documentation because it comes in within the project. So this is the folder for exceptions screenshots, and then the framework folder. So in the framework folder, we have a number of XAML files. All right. So all these XAML files, as you see them here, all of them are being invoked within this main, within these different states, these different 4 states that you see here. So we have the close application. This close application, as the name suggests, if you're working with any applications within your automation and you want to gracefully close the applications, that's when all your modules regarding closing applications, you encapsulate them in this close applications. And where do you find it in the main? It's always found in the end state, or end process state, end process. Then we have the get transaction data. This for this case, since we are working with the dispatcher, as we saw that the dispatcher prepares data that will be consumed by the performer. So for this case, we won't be working with the get transaction data. So that will come in on the later stage where we'll be working with the performer and manipulating the data. That's where we'll see how we can use this. Then we have the init all applications. So with the init all applications, this is where you see it's a short form for initialization. So this is where we initialize, this is where we start, this is where we open our applications that you'll be working with within any particular use case. So for our case, we saw that we're working with the ACME System, which is a web application. So at this point, that's where I'll be doing the opening of the application. Then the init all settings. This is the init all settings. Basically, it initializes. Remember the config file that I showed you here. So the settings that are within the config files that you have populated there, they are read and initialized at this stage of init all settings. You won't, because this is a framework, you won't even ever bother changing anything here unless otherwise. But most of the times it remains as is. So we also have the kill all applications. So the kill applications, how is it different from the close all applications? As I said, for the close all applications, we gracefully close the applications that you are working with within a particular use case. For the kill applications, here you use the kill activity within UiPath to forcefully close the application. And this comes in handy when you're preparing the environment your bot will be working in. So the kill all processes XAML, you'll find it within the initialization state. Also the init all settings, it's within the initialization state, as well as the init all applications within the initialization state. So how you can remember, you see that most of the XAML files that start with init, they are within the initialization state. Yeah. So then we have the process XAML. So this is where the actual manipulation of our data comes in. All modules, all your XAML files, all modules that are doing the actual work of the process that you're working with, it's always better to place them within the process.xaml. And that's where do you find the process.xaml? You find it within the process transaction state. Then we have the retry current transaction, current transaction that's found within the get transaction state. And then we have the set transaction status, as well as the text screenshot. The text screenshot, you find the text screenshot and set transaction status. The set transaction status, you'll find it within the get transaction data state. Yeah. So that's it on the high level about the folder structure of the REFramework. So without further ado, I'll jump in and we start the actual demo for our vendor collector use case. So I'll come in here in my projects panel. I create a folder. Right. I create a folder. I'll call it ACME Workflows. I don't need it inside the documentation. I need it outside. I want it here. Yeah, so I have ACME Workflows. So what's the first thing that we do with the ACME? Let me open. Just a sec. So this is our ACME. Let me open ACME page. I'm logging out. So the first thing that we do is log into ACME, right? So ACME workflows, I'll come, right click, add, then I'll add the sequence and I'll call it login. So within my login sequence, this will be the component that will be responsible for logging into the ACME system. So I'll come into my activities panel, I'll type in use browser activity, use app. We have seen this in our past videos. So in the use app activity, this is the one that I use to indicate on the application that I'll be working with. So I'll click indicate application. So I'll indicate the ACME app. Once I'm done with that, we're doing three things. Once we to log in, we are typing in the email, we are typing in the password, and we are clicking on login. So I'll come into Studio, come into my activities panel, I'll search for type into. I'll drag the activity, put it here. Then I'll Control C to copy, then Control V to paste the same activity. I'll also drag click activity. Right there. So I'll indicate email. So I've indicated this is my target and that's my email. I'll validate. Validation successful, all is well, I'm good. I'll confirm. I'll do the same for the type into on the login. I'll click here, indicate login on the password, picks my anchor's password, my target is clear, validate, validation successful, then I'll confirm as well. So then finally they click, I'm clicking on login. I use this as my anchor, validate, validation successful, I'll confirm. So in the earlier videos, we saw that we weren't incorporating Orchestrator. So this time around, we're doing it differently. How do we, if we're working with credentials, how do we deal with it in a production-ready environment, leveraging UiPath Studio and Orchestrator? So that will bring me to the part of Orchestrator. So I'll come here, I'll close these windows. If you don't have an account already, because if you see here down, it shows green and it is indicating Orchestrator URL. It's showing me that URL that I'm already connected to, an Orchestrator, even a folder name. So in the event that you're not connected, how do you connect? You come here, you have the option of signing in, and firstly you need to have a cloud.uipath account, cloud.uipath.com account. Then you log in. Once you have the account, then you come in back to Studio. You'll be coming back to Studio, and then you click here, then you sign in. So you just sign in. You might get two options of UiPath Studio, then UiPath Studio X. So you go with UiPath Studio. So once you open up your account of cloud.uipath, this is how it comes. The display, this is how it comes. So we're only looking out for this. So you just come here, click on this icon that shows Orchestrator. Once you click on it, so once you click on it, this is what comes. So you have my workshop, my workspace, shared folder. So this is what happens. I see it might be a lot of things right now, but this is what's happening. So this is a folder, right? And this folder has processes. These are processes, like processes can be automations. They call them processes in UiPath, right? Assets, we'll be looking at this because I'll be creating a credential asset that I'll later on feed into my bot in UiPath Studio, and as well as the queue. So for this particular video, we'll see how the assets and queues work within UiPath. So I'll do this. So I'll click on assets, right? So once I click on assets, so I'll come here. You see where I have add asset. I'll click on add asset, then I'll click on create an asset. So now my asset name will be ACME credentials. So we have different types of assets. As you can see here, we have text assets. We have bool, which is boolean, true or false. Then we have integer, which is integer. And then credentials. Credentials, it's username, password. So I'll be going with credentials. So within my asset value, the credential comes with the password and username. So this is my password. Sorry, this is my username. I'll type in my username. And then as well, I'll type in my what? My password. Right? And then I'll come and do it and save. So the security of to show you that this is really secure. So in case the orchestrator admin is the one that has added that password, I don't even, if I come back, let me say if I come back now again in edit and I try to view, you see I can't still view the password. So this is secure, and this is how you design production ready solutions. Because if you're working in a production environment, this is how you would deploy, and this is how, at least this is some of the best ways you can securely store your credentials. So this is how you can use the orchestrator, UiPath Orchestrator, to securely store your credentials. So once we're done, we have created our assets credential. So all is well, it's good. I'll just copy. Then I'll do this. I'll come to Studio. I'll come to Studio. And then go open data, then open my config file. Because remember, the config file, that's where we initialize our settings. So one of our settings that you want to initialize, it's what? I want to initialize my credentials. So I'll come into settings. So I've opened my config file. Then I came to the settings sheet, right? Settings sheet. Then I put the ACME credentials. So description, I'll give it username and password for ACME System. Right? So those are the assets. But you also see that we have the assets worksheet, right? But for the assets worksheet, maybe tip here, tip is assets worksheet only works with non-credential assets, right? But in the event that you're dealing with a credential asset, you can only place it within the settings worksheet. Yeah, that's something to jot down. Yeah, so I'll go on. So I'll save, then I will close. So I'll close my worksheet, my config file. So once I've closed, then I'll come into my activities panel. How do I get the credentials from Orchestrator to Studio? I use an activity called, try to guess in the comment section. It's called get credentials. So you see here, the names of the activities are really close to what you want to achieve. Yeah, so I'll get the get credentials activity. It's automatically connected to the orchestrator once you have connected to Orchestrator, as I told you. So I come into this field orchestrator folder path. Then I'll select, because I'm working within. If I go back here, you see that I'm within my workspace, and you're able to see that KK Alan 0 blah blah workspace So that's the folder that I'm working in. So it's the one that I've selected here, right? And then it is asking me credential asset name. So still when I click here, I'm able to get the ACME credentials. So the get credential activity, right? I've input that. So when I come into the properties, panel, so you see it has an out username. So username, I'll call it str username. Then I'll save. I'll also come here, Control K for creating my, and then I'll call it password. All right. So if I come into the variables panel, so you see that my username is a string. It's a variable of type string, and my password is of a variable secure string, right? So you see, I'm dealing with credentials securely in UiPath. So what am I supposed to do here? So when I come into type into email, so I'm just looking for my username variable, which is str username. So I put it there. When I come into the password, I will just click on secure. Then from standard to secure, when you click on secure, it even tells you that secure string variable. It's the one that they can only accept here. So I come here, then I'll type in password. And I can tell you that now, that's it. We are logged into ACME. So we can test out only this single model to see whether it works. Once we confirm that it's okay, then we can go on to building the other model, the other file for XAML. And then you see how the other part where I told you that the REFramework gives you the capacity to have decoupled workflows, right? You can have small workflows instead of having a big chunk or a single workflow with a number of activities in there. You only have small workflows that can achieve some small activities. Then after you encapsulate them together within the REFramework, as we're gonna see in this video. So I'll go on and close my ACME I'll close this, and then I'll also click on my use browser activity. Then I'll come into the variables panel, and on the close the close, by the default value for close, it will always close the browser once it's done. But since we're still developing, I'll change the value for close to never, so that when the bot opens the application, it doesn't close it after it's done, so that I can just pick it up from there. So I'll test out this login model by just using F6 on my keyboard. So it has opened the application, so now it's logging in. And we are in, right? We are in. So once we're logged in, what's our task? Our task is to come to vendors. We say that we have to click on vendors, click on search for vendor. After clicking on search for vendor, then we click on display all vendors, right? And then up to here. So we have a lot of click, right? So yeah, and we know that we can achieve that using UI activities like the click activity, right? But I told you, when you look at the URL for this particular path, for this particular page, we can just go directly to this URL minus doing the clicks, right? We can just log in. Immediately after logging in, we go straight to our desired URL without doing those additional clicks. So that's the part that I'll be going with. So I'll just come in here, I'll copy this. Not even without copying, I'll just leave it as is. Then I'll create another sequence, and the name I'll give to that sequence, because what that sequence will be doing, I'll be scraping this data from here. So I'll call it extract. So always try to name your XAML files something very descriptive, something informative, so that when another developer comes into your into your project is able to understand what's happening by just the name of by just the naming. Yeah, so it's always best practice to give descriptive names and not just give names that don't have meaning. Always try to give descriptive names. So I'll call this extract. I'll call this extract vendor data. Extract vendor data. I'll save. Then, so what do we use to extract? We have looked at the extract data table activity in our past videos. So I'll pick my extract data table activity, then I'll drag it here. But you see, once I've dropped the extract data table activity, UiPath automatically has added for me the use application activity, because the extract data table activity cannot exist on its own. It has to always to be encapsulated. It has to always to be cached. It has to always to be contained within I use application activity if you're working within the modern experience. Because as I've told you, we have two types of experience. We have the modern experience, which is the latest one, which is the more up-to-date. And if you're using latest versions of UiPath, chances are high that you'll be working with the modern experience. But if you're using some old versions of UiPath, then some things may be different here and there, but all in all, we can use them to achieve the same thing. So I'll come here, I'll click, then I'll indicate this screen. So I'll indicate the screen. I've indicated the screen. That's done. Then I'll come here. Then I'll click. We have looked at the extract data tab activity in the past, but I'll show you. So I'll click here. Once I click, let me pull that they're being displayed on my other screen. Let me drag it for you here. So once I click on any column within this page, it's asking me, would you like to extract all columns from the table? I'll click yes. I'll pull this for you so that you're able to see. So once I click yes, you see that all the different columns have been captured. All the different 5 columns. If you look at my screen, I have vendor, I have task ID, I have address, I have city, I have country. Right? So all those have been captured. You can also preview to see. You also have an option to export to CSV, though that's not the option that you'll be going with. So if, I don't have any extra data on the multiple pages, so I won't be checking this. So I'll go ahead and close. So once I close, the data I'll be storing my data in a data table. I'll call it DT vendor data. And this vendor data, if you come into my variables panel, you see it's of type data table. A data table, it's basically, you can call it Excel in memory. So it's in tabular form, but it is memory. So it gives you the capacity to manipulate data in a tabular form within memory during runtime. So once I have my data, what else? So I've logged into ACME. I've navigated to the page where I need to download my desired data from. And once I have my data, okay, so let me, if we come back here, so we're saying we logging into ACME, go get our vendor list, scrape the data, write it to Excel, and then upload it to the queue item. So I'll be skipping out this. I won't write the data to Excel. So what we're gonna do, since that our data is already in a data table, which is already in tabular format that you want, so I'm just going to pick the data directly and then upload it directly to the orchestrator. I'll try to rename so that, because there are not a lot of details, but I always want to have every XAML file best practice. This is best practice. Every XAML file, it should always at least have, you don't need to be doing a lot of things within a same XAML file. Best practice always have something small being done within a XAML, right? Yeah, but for this case, I'll just say this will be extract vendor data and upload it to queue, and upload it to queue. So this is where I'll do that. This is where I'll do it from. I've just renamed. So once I have my data in here, so I come get my for each row activity, for each data row, then I'll pick my, this is my DT, and then we'll be looking at a new activity here, which helps us add items to queues. What do you think the name's gonna be for adding items to queues? We saw for getting credentials, it's get credentials. Try to guess. Guess in the chat. It's add still. It's add item. So add queue item. So you can add an element using this. You can also add using this. I'll be going with the add queue item. I'll be going with the add queue item. Then, so where we adding Orchestrator folder, that's it. Then I haven't created the queue. Then I'll come back here in my workspace. Then I click on queues. I'm clicking on queues, workspace, queues. Alternatively, you can say home, then queues. Still, it's all the same. Then after you come in queues, come here, click add queue, then create a new queue. Once you click on create a new queue, then you come here. I'll call it vendor queue. Vendor queue. So I'm leaving the rest of the rest of the configuration properties. I'm leaving them as is. I've just clicked on I've just added the name queue, vendor queue, and then I'm adding. That's what I'm doing. I'm creating it. So this is my queue here, right? I've created my queue. Then I'm coming back to Studio. It's telling me the Orchestrator folder. I've chosen the folder. Then it is asking me for the queue name. So I'll click here. Then I'll click on the queue name, vendor queue name. Right? And so once that's done, I'll come here to add in our details, right? So this is it here. So this is what's happening. I've logged in, navigated. I've logged into ACME, navigated to the page of vendor, the list that has the list of all vendors. I've scraped the vendors into a data table. So now we are iterating through the data table. As we're iterating through the data table, we are adding these items to the queue. So how do we map the columns within the data table to our queue item? This is how we're going to do it. So I'll come here, I'm clicking here, all right, and then I'll close. So I'm adding, let me add in a number of entries. So we're adding in a vendor. So I'll just get it as is, key. I'll call it vendor, all right. And then current row, because remember we're working current row, we're iterating through the current row. This is how we access elements within the data, the data table. So current row, then still it will be vendor because it's the same row, and then to string. Yeah. So I'll do this process will be the same. I'll do the same for tax ID. Tax ID, then also current row, tax ID, then to string. I'll do the same for address. Address. I'll copy this to my clipboard. Address is already on my clipboard, so I use Windows button then V to get the address as well. So I'll do the same for city. Copy city. Double quotes. Paste city. Windows V. Pick this. and then still I get a city and country as well. Country. Of course, it's already on my clipboard. Then Windows V, I get this. Then country. I'll close this. So that's it there. I save, right? And guess what? With just this activity, we have our items already uploaded. We'll see that when we run in when we run and test it out. So once we're done, at least we want to know how come log, get a log message, come into here, log message activity, then it's of info level, and then I'll just come here. I will do it. I will just leverage the generative AI capabilities of UiPath, just using natural language. I'll tell it log the number of rows in the data table. Just that. Right? And then so include the description, include some description, I'll say include some description. So the number of rows in the data table, yeah. So this, it's able to, with just this function, it's able to log the number of rows. So I'll say number of rows that has been added to the queue, right? And I save. I'll save. So, right, we're logging in. So just time to do a test. But before we do the test, some things have to tweak a bit. So how do we encapsulate these into the XAML? So one, something, if I come back to the framework here, in our framework, right? Close, kill. So when I come to the kill, what applications are we working with? We're working with Chrome, right? Chrome. We're also working with Excel. So we need to close Chrome. We need to kill Excel before our board starts. We need to clean the environment so that it finds when it's clean. So I'll do this. I'll come to UiPath. I'll get a kill. We have a kill process activity. We're going to be seeing how this works in a minute. Kill process activity. Then I'll pick a 4 for each. So I'll be explaining. Let me just pick. I'll be explaining in a minute. So this is what happens. So I'm gonna create an array. Yeah, Control K. I'll call it processes. Come into variables panel. This could be it could be a collection. You could work with an array. You could work with a list. Either way. So I just work with an array of type string. And what this array will store for me, array of type string, come into my assign, then I'll instantiate my braces. So in here, I'm gonna have the names of my applications that I'm working with, so that when the app is starting, it can't close them. But how do I get to know? Because I have to close Chrome. I also have to close Excel. I don't know. Excel is not part of the game, but I'll show you as well. Because I remember we removed it. I said I'll be doing all with this. Huh? So, okay, cool. So we only have to close Chrome and X, but I'll show you with both. So how do you find out the name of what value? Because when you come in here in kill, you see it has process, which is a process type object, and then it has process name, the name of the process to be closed. So how do I know this is the I'm only working this? I won't be working process. I'll be working process name. So how do I know the process name, the name of the process that I'll be closing? So this is how you go about it. I'm pressing. You don't need to press Windows and R on your keyboard. You can just search the app and open it. But I'll use the keyboard. I'll use the Windows button and R to open the task manager. So this is how you can open task manager in your this run. It's task mgr. Then I'll enter. So when you enter, when you come in my tasks that are running, in your task manager, you have processes, you have performance, you have app history, startup apps, users, then details. We're interested in details. So when you click on details, you see name, PID, which is process ID, right? Status, then username, right? So what we're interested in is this, the name. So for what we're interested in is the name without the file extension. So for example, if I want to close Chrome, I'll only pick Chrome as it appears there on the screen, but without the .exe. So if I want to close Chrome, I'll come here. So I'll call it Chrome. And then if I add Excel, for example, let me try to open Excel for you. Should I show you something? So let me open Excel. Just blank. So I've opened up Excel. When I come in my process, my details, you see I have these. So if I wanted to close Excel, let me test actually on Excel because Chrome has a number of. Let me let me also type in Excel. So if I do this, I can. In the meantime, if I remove Chrome, I'm gonna put it back in a minute. Then I'll say processes. So for each processes, I'm iterating through the processes. For each, I'm changing the current text to process because I'm closing process. Right. Come back. Then here I'll say process. I want process. It's there. Bits I might have to just a sec. Yeah. So all is well. It's not picking this process. Okay, process. Let me tell the process. It did change that process. Yeah. So as it's done, you see we're good. So I'll save. So if I run this for you, see now Excel is open. So if I just run this file to test it out, so it's good, but best practice, or is test as you build, test as you build, test as you build. So you see, it's saying killing processes. Then it has killed Excel because Excel is no longer open. So that's what it does basically. So yeah, so I'll come into my main. So since we're not, as you said, this is a dispatch another performer, we're not getting any transactions from any sources, not the orchestrator queues, not from Excel, not from an API, not from a database. So for this case, what we're gonna do, I'll do this. So you just so in the process, when it is a successful for the process transaction, I'll drag this from process transaction to, when it is a success, I'll drag it to end process. And then this that comes to, if it is business exception, I'll just drag it to initialization, like that. So I'm just literally changing the nodes that are going to the get transaction, since I won't need it for this particular use case. And then if it is a successful initialization, I'm not going to get, I just want to come straight to my process transaction. Just a sec. For some reason, I don't know why it's not responding. Oh, good. So if it is a successful, I'm just coming here, and then I'll just delete this. So that's one change I'm making. Then I save. So this is where the model reusability comes in. So I'll just come in my initialization. In initialization, I can access it from here in main. I've clicked on main. I'll collapse this a bit. So I've clicked on main. This is a stage. We looked at this on a high level. So it's encapsulated in a try-catch. That's why we say it's really very, it's robust in handling exceptions, because you see all the activities are encapsulated within a try-catch, because this is a try-catch. We're catching all system exceptions. System exception, this catches any kind of exception. So in there, I'm looking for evoke. So you can come and look for it here, or you can come in the framework and just click, like it's here, it's something. This init application is also here, so I can access it directly from here, or come here and open. Either way, get to the same thing. So in the init application, this is where I'll be logging in. And this node is set in stone. You see, it's creativity. Yeah? That's why you see when I'm studying my channel, I'm saying where tech meets creativity. There's no one way of doing something. How you think about it, and sometimes you could get to. So here, even though it's saying open applications, I'll be logging in from here. Yeah, this is where I just be logging in. So once I'm done logging in and all is well, I'll come. We're not doing any getting of transactions. I'll just come process in my process. So the process is also similar, kind of. It's a state as well. All activities are encapsulated within the try-catch, as you can see here. So but we're catching two exceptions here. We're catching both business exception and system exception. Business exception, just to hint on it, business exception, this is an exception that's known. If you're working on a particular use case and you know something that might happen, business knows this might happen, they notify you right away. So when you're doing the build, you handle that exception, and it will be under the business exceptions. So here, this is where you evoke from. So you can come here or come here. It's all the same. So I can open it from here or here. I'll open it from here. So in the process, this is where I'll be doing my extraction from. Right? So I'm extracting from here. In my processes, I need to add in Chrome as well for the test. Chrome. Yeah, so it's about the time we're gonna do our first test. Fingers crossed. So the expectation, if all goes well, I have to log into ACME. When I log into ACME, navigate to the vendor list. When I navigate to the vendor list, I will scrape the data there. Once I scrape the data, then I upload it to the Orchestrator queue to prepare my data. And then that data. Once the data is ready, we call it a video, and it will lead us to our next video, where we'll be looking at how do we consume the video into the performer. So that's for another video. I'll go ahead and run. Fingers crossed. So it's initializing settings, killing processes. So now it's opening. It's saying it's out. Typing in the email. Yeah, so I have to log out because I was already was still logged in. So now it's logging in. You see it has logged in. Now it has navigated to another page. It has navigated to our desired page. So now it's working on the downloading of the data. Yeah, and I feel it's done with the downloading of the data. So the only thing is, you see it has opened another instance of the browser, which we don't want. We just want to deal with the same instance. So I'll do this. I'll come open my output panel. So you see our bot has run successfully, though just a few things we're gonna tweak here, but for the purposes of the video, we see that we are about to achieve what we want. We're just now gonna investigate the output. So here it's telling us number of rows that have been added to the queue. There are 14, and if we navigate to vendor, then search for vendor, and then display all vendors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which is accurate. So we're getting 14 items that have been added to our, according to the logs, because these are the logs. That's what the logs are telling us. And because we also said it's good with modular and also good with the logging. So you see here, you're able to follow along properly because everything is logged. We can also add in your logs. So I'll go on Orchestrator as well to investigate whether the queue items, whether what's in the logs tallies with what's on the Orchestrator. So I'll open my Orchestrator, my cloud, my automation. So I'll navigate to Orchestrator. Then I'll come to my workspace. Then I'll come to queues. So I'll come to queues, vendor queue. Then when I come to vendor queue, you see where these 3 dots are. More actions. I click on more actions. Then I'll click here, view transactions. So when I click on view transactions, you see that I have items, which are 14. And when I try to view, let me try to view any of those transactions. I see very well that I have my data in here. You see, I have my vendor, tax ID, address, city, country, everything is in there. So you see, I've been able to get my data and then prepare it. So now this data will be later on consumed by another by another bot, which is the performer bot. So a recap of what we have covered in this video. So I'll take you back a bit. So we have looked at the REFramework, and what we've seen in the REFramework, we have looked at how we could use the REFramework to design scalable solutions. And the use case that we have looked at the vendor data collector, and we have seen how we could log in. We could structure our project within the REFramework. We've logged in. We've been able to scrape our desired data, and we've been able to upload it into the Orchestrator. If you have any questions, kindly do drop them in the chat. I'll make every effort to try to answer them. And then if you did find the video useful, consider hitting the bell icon, consider hitting the like button, consider subscribing on the YouTube channel so that you're always notified every time I upload. See you in the next video. I'm out.